Hey everyone, today we're discussing flow control and make.com. Now, personally, I found there's not many videos out there that really go into the depth of it, so I decided to take it upon myself and make this video for you guys. But if you guys don't know what flow control is, simply put, flow control is used to manage the flow of data within your automation. Using tools like iterators, array aggregators, repeaters, and routers, flow control allows you to dictate how the data moves within your scenario, but more importantly, how it's processed. Now, this is important because it allows us to create more complex automations with multiple types of software that all handle data differently. Now, if you guys want more videos where I break down how to automate any kind of software, be sure to subscribe because I'm be sharing a ton of my automation knowledge on this channel. So first is the iterator. The iterator module is fantastic for splitting up data into individual bundles of processing. Imagine you have multiple email attachments that need to be saved to your Google Drive. Instead of handling all the attachments as one large group, the iterator steps in and takes each attachment one at a time, sending it through your scenario separately. Now, this is perfect when you need every item to be processed in a specific way. Let's say you have a mail hook that gets triggered every single time a new email is sent to your business's email account. Now, typically this email receives a lot of Word documents and PDF invoices, and you struggle because you have to manually filter out all of these emails and filter the invoices from the Word documents. Now here, you can easily use Iterator to actually handle all the attachments within all your emails as individual bundles. And then within those bundles, you can then see what kind of type of attachment it is and filter for those types. So you can filter out Word documents from invoices and then handle those types of data differently, saving the hassle of manually filtering them yourself. Next, we have the iterator's more complex older brother, the array aggregator. Now this module is used to collect multiple bundles of data and combine them all into a single array. Think of gathering lots of records into one large bundle, making it easier to process than other modules. Now the reason why you would use an array aggregator is when you're dealing with lots of data. It's easier to manage in bulk. So let me show you an example. This right here is an automation that I recently built that will execute when a supplier clicks on a specific link that gets emailed to them. That link is actually mapped to a custom webhook that sends data back to this automation, and it gets instantly triggered when they click it. So if we go into this automation, you can actually see that when the webhook was clicked, it sent a webhook response, and within that webhook was the key, the ID, and SKU numbers. And you can see here in this module, we wanted to filter out any records that had an ID of 4. And as a result, it gave us an ID of 4, sneakers, type is shoes, unit pair, and 3 different types: white, black, and blue. Now one thing you'll notice is that the quantity of the blue shoes is quite low. It's only 5. There's only 5 pairs left of these shoes. And this is where this automation gets really interesting. We then send all that data into the iterator. And as you've learned, it sends an array and splits it up into individual bundles, which is the output as seen here. We then connected that to an array aggregator. So as you can see here, we've mapped certain sections like the SKU, size, color, price, and quantity. But in the quantity section, this is where we're actually using a formula to decide if we need to update the records or not. So in the formula, it's 2 if statements. First part of the if statement is saying, is the SKU number equal to the original SKU number that we sent in the webhook? And here you can see it's moving to indicate that's what we're referring to. If it is, then we move on to the second part, which is the quantity less or equal to 5? If it is, we get the original quantity and add 50. If it isn't, we just leave it alone, indicating that there is enough stock. And if the SKU number does not equal the SKU number that we are specifically looking for, we just leave the quantity alone. Which is why when you look into the operations, you can see here that only the third variant of the blue shoes got updated. Now the quantity is 55. Now, following this, we then send that data back into the data store to update all the records, and a webhook responds back to the supplier saying it was all successful. Next is the router, and it's amazing for sending data to different segments within one scenario, making it more complex but concise. The great thing about routers is that you can control the order of operations. All you have to do is just right-click the module and click on Order Routes, and now you can choose which path you want to run first. Now, this is useful because setting things up in the first path allows you to then refer back to them in the following paths. So this right here is a very basic scenario where we have a Google Sheets searching up certain rows into a router, and it has 2 paths. And the first path is it adds a new row to that Google Sheet and sets a variable. In the second path, it updates a row in that Google Sheet and then has a get variable module. Now this only works because the first path will run first, and then the second path will run afterwards. And as you can see, when we run this automation, and everything is successful, including the set variable and get variable. And here you can see in the set variable, we've set status to equal success. And in the get variable, we're pulling the variable status, and in the output, you can see that status equals success. which means that it is successfully mapped to that variable. Now, you might be wondering, why is this important? Well, since the first path will run first, we can set the variable. And then when the second path runs, you don't need to just reset the variable again. We can just call the variable that we initially set. This is useful for condensing the amount of modules within your workflow, but also to reuse variables across large scenarios. You can think of it like setting your variables up in coding. At the start, you originally define all your variables, and then throughout your code, you can then refer back to those variables. The same thing applies here, rather than having to redefine the variables every single time that you wanted to use it. Finally, the repeater. It's useful but very niche. It pretty much, as the name suggests, just repeats sections of your scenarios. You can think of this module kind of like a for loop in coding, and you can even make it more complex by using two repeaters next to each other to create a nested for loop. Personally, I don't use it that much, but it is good for automations where repeating sections of modules is more efficient than having to repeat the entire automation. So there you have it. If you guys did enjoy this video, then be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're looking for more AI content, then be sure to check out my Instagram or TikTok, first link in the description. I'll see you guys next time.